We're going to move our trust and safety and content moderation teams out of California, and our US-based content review is going to be based in Texas.
That right there may be the biggest part of this entire statement. Well, today, the social media world, especially content creators, as well as anyone who utilizes Facebook to trade information, links, their opinion, the stuff you're supposed to use social media for, we were all stunned by an announcement from founder and CEO of Meta, Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg. Let's take a quick look at this video. I'm going to interrupt it only a couple of times to give you some commentary on what I think is really, really important and sort of the underlying message here. First, look at the outfit. Who's styling him? There's something different here, right? Doesn't he look like he's about to give you some, insights into Bitcoin and cryptocurrency? He's dressed like he's about to host one of those bro podcasts that Barron Trump recommended his dad go on. It's like he wants to be in the club now. It's obvious what's going on here. And the way he delivered this message about the new anti-censorship regime over at Facebook, the words he used meant to communicate directly to Americans who supported Donald Trump and identify themselves as MAGA conservatives. I'll point it out as it happens. Let's listen.
That's something important today, because it's time to get back to our roots around free expression on Facebook and Instagram. I started building social media to give people a voice. I gave a speech at Georgetown 5 years ago about the importance of protecting free expression, and I still believe this today. But a lot has happened over the last several years. There's been widespread debate about potential harms from online content. Governments and legacy media have pushed to censor more and more. A lot of this is clearly political, but there's also a lot of legitimately bad stuff out there. Drugs, terrorism, child exploitation. These are things that we take very seriously, and I want to make sure that we handle responsibly. So we built a lot of complex systems to moderate content. But the problem with complex systems is they make mistakes. Even if they accidentally censor just 1% of posts, that's millions of people. And we've reached a point where it's just too many mistakes and too much censorship. The recent elections also feel like a cultural tipping point towards once again prioritizing speech. So we're going to get back to our roots and focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, and restoring free expression on our platforms.
All right, couple things there, and we'll get back to it because there's a lot loaded into this statement. I cannot overemphasize how earth-shattering this is right now, based on where we've been with Meta, where we've been with Facebook. You ask any content creator out there, right of center, and they'll tell you that about a couple of years ago, things just absolutely crashed across the board with Facebook. And it was because of these systems that they put in place to silence our voices. Now, he's blaming the systems for making mistakes, but at least he's acknowledging that that mistakes were made. Now, I believe they were deliberate mistakes. And if the systems didn't work right and ended up censoring voices because they were guilty of wrongthink for being conservative, well, one has to look at who created those systems to empower them to make those mistakes. He sort of reveals it a little later on, and that's what I think is really the hidden secret, sort of overlooked part of this statement that I'm going to point out to you coming up in just a few minutes. But also understand what he just said, that they've got to go back to their roots, getting away from censorship and onto free speech. That's an admission that they have gone astray, that they've been out in the wilderness and abandoned free speech. He also said that this last election sent a message that that's what the American people expect Facebook to do. Think about that for a second. Yes, that's huge in terms of a continued ripple effect from the Donald Trump victory this last November. But he's also acknowledging that how free speech and the First Amendment is enforced and respected in this country on social media platforms like Facebook are reliant on who won the last election. Well, that's absolute and total bullshit. And you know it. The whole point of our Constitution and the First Amendment and our God-given right to free speech protected by the First Amendment. Remember, the Constitution doesn't give us the right to free speech. We were born with free speech. The Constitution is to protect us from the government intruding on our free speech. Well, it's supposed to transcend who happens to be sitting in the White House. These are our rights. You can't but decide by executive action or by new policy from the executive branch of government. Even by law, you can't infringe on our constitutional rights. The only way you can infringe on our constitutional rights is if you amend the Constitution. And here's Mark Zuckerberg saying, well, the last election tells us that there's a different tide in this country, and so we're going back to our roots with free speech. No, dude. We're supposed to embrace free speech, enforce free speech, acknowledge free speech, and be free of any intrusion on our free speech, regardless of the election. Thank you for acknowledging that you were violating our rights as a corporation, at least. Obviously, the First Amendment is there to protect us from the government infringing on our rights, but he's acknowledging that he infringed on those rights based on the presidential elections past, and now he's sending us back to freedom because of the last election. That's an incredible acknowledgement, whether he knows he just admitted it or not. All right, back to our friend here with the what do the kids like to call that? Is that a Jew fro? Is that technically a, and I mean that with a great affection. I have a couple of friends who are Jewish that have hair like that. Is that a Jew fro, or is that just a perm that he got gussied up with for, I don't know. Let's get back to Mark Zuckerberg.
More specifically, here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to get rid of fact checkers and replace them with community notes similar to X, starting in the US. After Trump first got elected in 2016, the legacy media wrote nonstop about how misinformation was a threat to democracy. We tried in good faith to address those concerns without becoming the arbiters of truth. But the fact checkers have just been too politically biased and have destroyed more trust than they've created, especially in the US.
All right. So a couple things there that I just want to make sure you didn't overlook. He set up the fact-checking regime in Facebook in response to the media going nuts about misinformation. So he didn't like the press he was getting. Oh my gosh, they're saying on CNN that there was misinformation on Facebook. So let's respond to that. Not respond to the consumer, not respond to his customer, not respond to the American people, respond to Rachel Maddow and George Stephanopoulos by creating this fact-checking regime. He also just admitted that the fact-checking regime at Facebook was too politically biased. Just so you know, the fact-checking regime at Facebook partnered with mainstream media outlets. USA Today, I believe, participated as one of the partners. So did this website called The Dispatch. You know, The Dispatch, they pretend to be sort of a conservative website with Jonah Goldberg, Steve Hayes. I think they're the founders. David French used to write over there. They pretend that they're, you know, the real conservatives, right of center. They were fact checkers for Facebook. And Mark Zuckerberg, their pal, their partner, just threw him under the bus by acknowledging that they were too biased. I love it. Of course, fact checkers are biased. And thank you, Mark Zuckerberg, for acknowledging the truth, the obvious truth. And for all of you watching right now, I'm glad that you don't partake in news and information from websites like The Dispatch and USA Today. Thank you for getting your content right here at Town Hall, at townhall.com, redstate.com, pjmedia.com, hotair.com, and Twitchy and Bearing Arms. We'll never pretend to be fact checkers and partner with Facebook because we know that fact checkers are biased. They're politically biased. So thank you, Zuckerberg. All right, back to the statement.
So over the next couple of months, we're going to phase in a more comprehensive community notes system. Second, we're going to simplify our content policies and get rid of a bunch of restrictions on topics like immigration and gender that are just out of touch with mainstream discourse. What started as a movement to be more inclusive has increasingly been used to shut down opinions and shut out people with different ideas, and it's gone too far. So I want to make sure that people can share their beliefs and experiences on our platforms.
all of us have been saying that we were being censored because we happen to express our opinion about people coming into the country illegally and committing crimes and they should be deported. Boom, you violated our standards. I believe that there's only two genders, a boy and a girl, male and female. Boom, you're censored because you violated our standards. Biologically, scientifically, there are only people with XX chromosomes and XY chromosomes. And no matter what drugs you take and what surgery you perform, you're never going to change that scientific biological reality. Boom, your post was deleted because you violated our standards. He's now admitted it. I'm sorry if I'm too excited about this, but you got to understand how big this is. If they follow through with what he's saying right now, it's really going to change the way we talk to each other. We're going to get back to the good old days, when we could actually express our opinions on social media. Facebook's going to allow us to do that again. Gosh, thanks, Mark.
Third, we're changing how we enforce our policies to reduce the mistakes that account for the vast majority of censorship on our platforms. We used to have filters that scanned for any policy violation. Now, we're going to focus those filters on tackling illegal and high-severity violations. And for lower severity violations, we're going to rely on someone reporting an issue before we take action.
All right, now that's also huge. I don't know how many of you tried to post something and it got stopped before it could even get published on Facebook because it utilized certain words, or maybe it was a link to a website that they had already set up with their AI bots to prohibit happening. And it was like, what? This isn't terrorist information. I'm not sharing stuff, to encourage pedophilia or anything. That's what those screens are supposed to be set up for. No, they were set up to screen out automatically without any human being making a judgment call. They were screening out the things that hurt individuals' feelings on politics or what have you. He's doing away with all of that, he claims, and now they'll only look at a post if somebody actually proactively complains about it. Now, that's still rife with bias, and it opens themselves up to utilizing their own left-wing judgments on stuff. But that brings us to, again, what I believe is the hidden, most important, biggest part of this whole message that everybody's overlooking. Nobody gets it. You're about to, because you're watching me right now. Watch.
The problem is that the filters make mistakes, and they take down a lot of content that they shouldn't. So by dialing them back, we're going to dramatically reduce the amount of censorship on our platforms. We're also going to tune our content filters to require much higher confidence before taking down content. The reality is that this is a trade-off. It means we're going to catch less bad stuff, but we'll also reduce the number of innocent people's posts and accounts that we accidentally take down. Fourth, we're bringing back civic content. For a while, the community asked to see less politics because it was making people stressed, so we stopped recommending these posts. But it feels like we're in a new era now, and we're starting to get feedback that people want to see this content again. So we're going to start phasing this back into Facebook, Instagram, and Threads while working to keep the communities friendly and positive.
All right, that's not the biggest thing. That's big, but that's not this hidden thing that everyone's overlooking. I'm going to point it out. It's still coming. But let me just tell you, if you're a fan of content like this show right now and you're watching us on Facebook, if you like the Ben Shapiro podcast or any of the Daily Wire podcasts, if you like Dan Bongino, if you like Benny Johnson, if you like all of my colleagues, Charlie Kirk, and my colleagues who do what we do here with right-of-center content, direct to you, streaming the way that we're doing right now, what he just said is a game changer. Because for the last several years, behind the scenes, looking at our analytics, we have been suppressed. We have been taken out of their feeds, out of the news feeds, out of Threads, out of the algorithm, or whatever other description you want to take it. We all looked at our numbers. We'll all tell you the same thing. In fact, our buddy Benny Johnson, I think, just posted this last night on his X account. He posted a screenshot of his analytics where all of his numbers just crashed. We've all been experiencing this. We don't even look at Facebook anymore for any kind of significant revenue or traffic anymore. That's not where there's been any business. And he just admitted why. Because they were saying, oh, people were tired of politics. They didn't want to hear about politics. Well, that's bullshit. Of course, people will care about politics. People, all the other platforms, political content is going through the roof, right? Why was Facebook standing alone? They disincentivize content creators like yours truly to participate in the content that we make on Facebook. There was a while there where we weren't even posting the show on Facebook or any of our videos on Facebook. It wasn't worth the effort. And now we know why. Because they specifically deliberately went out of their way to take it out of their streams, take it out of the threads. He's just now admitted, okay, we're going to get back to allowing civic content, as he puts it, political discourse. Now, whether that changes the kind of revenue and response that we get out of it, I don't know. I mean, listen, we're on Facebook. You're watching us on Facebook. Hello, Facebook. Give us some comments. Give us a hello down there in Facebook so we can see that you're watching us. We just want to make sure we get our message out. But if we can make revenue in doing it on this show, if our partners and friends, people that you haven't even heard of yet who are just starting a show, if they can add Facebook as a platform where they can expand their voice and actually get some income, that's a good thing. More voices, not fewer voices. That's the secret to an open democracy, an open constitutional republic, an open society, is that everybody's voice has the ability to be heard by millions of people. And Facebook's been silencing it, silencing many voices like ours. So we're thrilled to hear that as well. All right, here we go. Here comes the big nugget that people just like heard and said, oh, well, that's interesting. But they don't realize what not only is he admitting, but the game changer that this is going to make.
Fifth, we're going to move our trust and safety and content moderation teams out of California, and our US-based content review is going to be based in Texas. As we work to promote free expression, I think that it will help us build trust to do this work in places where there is less concern about the bias of our teams.
There it is. That's it. Did you, if you've seen this statement, you may have just like glossed, oh, that's great. They're moving to Texas because they want tax cuts because there's no income tax, state income tax in Texas. Oh, that's great. No, that right there may be the biggest part of this entire statement for a couple of reasons. First, he's admitting that all of these rules and violations and censorship and safety measures that they've put in place at Facebook based on speech codes, it's all been completely influenced by the region, by the Silicon Valley, by the Bay Area in liberal, left-wing, mind-numbed California, San Francisco, California. You see, the people who work there at their cubicles, they're all getting hired from that area. You know, they went to school at Berkeley. They went to school at Stanford. They're all there in the Bay Area of California. So they're all liberal Democrats. The state is dominated by liberal Democrats. He's admitting that the people who were put in place, not the systems, not the AI, not the algorithms, not the coding, the people who were responsible for creating and enforcing these policies were a big part of the problem, because they didn't look at the world, they didn't look at the country and issues and policies in this country from the perspective that the vast majority of Americans are looking at it from. They had a cultural regional bias, and now he's abandoning the Californians and he's going to Texas. I mean, think about it for a minute. You're putting together this whole speech code enforcement, and it's going to be enforced by people who live in San Francisco and the Bay Area of California, or it's going to be enforced by people who live in redneck Texas. Do you think maybe the people in Texas are going to look at things a little different than the people in California? Of course they are. Not only is he admitting that it was all the left-wing lunatics in California that were really causing the problems, but he's now changing the entire region to Texas because he acknowledges that huge, huge numbers of people in America have been discriminated against, have been overlooked, have been silenced, have been ignored by his big media company, solely because of the region, because of the people. People are policy. Personnel make the difference. And now, instead of liberal San Francisco Democrats who love Kamala Harris and think Trump is icky, he's going to red state Texas. I think that's gigantic. I think it's huge. Not only is it a huge admission of what was wrong up until now. But that single-handedly, because of the people that will now be hired, the people who will be working in those cubicles, the people who will be in management making decisions, making those judgment calls, whether that post can stay up or not, whether the policy is, okay, these things we're going to be concerned about, these things we're going to let people talk about because that's what people in America talk about, whether it's at the water cooler or at the sideline of their kid's soccer game or on the playground or wherever, or on social media or on Facebook. This is what Americans like to talk about, so just let them talk. We don't need to get in the way of it. Those decisions will now be made by people who live in Texas. That's amazing. It really is amazing. Now, I know a lot of you are saying, don't trust Zuckerberg. This is all BS. He's only doing it because he wants to be, part of the game, and he's doing this for money and all that. Okay, we'll address that in a second. Here's the end of the statement.
Finally, we're going to work with President Trump to push back on governments around the world that are going after American companies and pushing to censor more. The US has the strongest constitutional protections for free expression in the world. Europe has an ever-increasing number of laws institutionalizing censorship and making it difficult to build anything innovative there. Latin American countries have secret courts that can order companies to quietly take things down. China has censored our apps from even working in the country. The only way that we can push back on this global trend is with the support of the US government. And that's why it's been so difficult over the past 4 years when even the US government has pushed for censorship. By going after us and other American companies, it has emboldened other governments to go even further. But now we have the opportunity to restore free expression, and I am excited to take it. It'll take time to get this right, and these are complex systems. They're never going to be perfect. There's also a lot of illegal stuff that we still need to work very hard to remove. But the bottom line is that after years of having our content moderation work focus primarily on removing content, it is time to focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our systems, and getting back to our roots about giving people voice. I'm looking forward to this next chapter. Stay good out there, and more to come soon.
All right. So listen, key element there, of course, is he's talking about how he wants to work with President Trump. None of this would have happened if Kamala Harris had won the election. So again, the ripple effect continues, not just Trudeau in Canada finally changing, but now we got Mark Zuckerberg, social media, Facebook. You got to love it. Okay. So let's address the elephant in the room, because you're right. You're right. When you say don't trust this guy, he's a snake. You can't trust him. He was only looking for the money. He's only sort of licking his finger and feeling which way the wind is blowing. He's jealous of Elon Musk. He wants a seat at the table. You're right. You're right. You're right. You're 100% right. I don't care. I don't care what his motives are. I don't need him to agree with me. I don't need him to be an angel. I don't need him to be pure. I don't need him to have the best motives in the world. I don't care. There's no way I will ever know what is in Mark Zuckerberg's heart if he has one. I still am somewhat intrigued by the idea that he is an alien droid. It doesn't matter to me. What matters is what he does. His actions matter to me. I don't judge people by their intentions because I'll never know what people's intentions really are. I only know what they do. I don't care if he's doing this for profit motive. I don't care if he's doing this out of jealousy of Elon Musk. I don't care if he's doing this because he likes to be invited to Mar-a-Lago. I don't care. I care about the results. And if all of those petty reasons are part of why he's deciding to re-embrace free speech, good. Let me tell you a story. Remember GE? Jack Welch used to be the longtime CEO of GE, and he was considered a right-wing conservative Republican. He built GE into one of the biggest corporations on the planet. And everyone assumed that he was a conservative Republican. And then Barack Obama wins the presidency, and suddenly GE is embracing all this green climate change agenda crap. GE used to own NBC. Do you remember when NBC altered their entire primetime lineup for a week, and all of the storylines had something to do with the environment and climate change and greenhouse gases? Do you remember any of this? It was around 2009, I want to say, or 2010. And it's like, what's happened to GE? Why is GE gone all left wing? We didn't say woke back then. Why is GE doing all of this stuff? Well, there were a couple of reasons. The first is Barack Obama won the election, and major corporations decide that they're going to do stupid crap like that to embrace where the power is. They were trying to ingratiate themselves to the new Obama administration, number one. Number two, CEOs look for ways to make money no matter who's sitting in the White House, and their policies are going to change depending on who won that election. So when GE is looking at the tide of the nation and Obama wins on all this climate change BS, what do? Well, we're going to change all of our shows on NBC to focus on that issue. Aren't you happy, Barack Obama and Democrats? Oh, good. Oh, by the way, this whole move to get rid of incandescent light bulbs because incandescent light bulbs draw too much energy. Well, that was a big part of our business model over here at GE. But you know what? We're going to embrace change. We're with you. We think you should outlaw incandescent light bulbs. We are 100% agree with you. Oh, by the way, we've come out with this new fluorescent light bulb that costs 10 times more than an incandescent light bulb. Screw that, 20 times more. Considering you're now making those old light bulbs that we used to sell for 89 cents each illegal, we embrace that. Now everyone will have to buy this $10 light bulb. Otherwise, they're going to light bulb jail. We love you, Barack Obama. We're liberal Democrats too. I have no idea what the politics of the CEO of GE is. I know that GE is going to set up policies that are going to embrace Obama or Bush or Trump. It doesn't matter. That's how it should be. Not these idiotic woke policies that go against the tide of the country. The tide of the country right now is for more freedom, for more Trump, for rejecting wokeism, rejecting all of the speech police and everything. And as Zuckerberg is embracing those things too, because it's better for his profit margin, because that's where America is, great. That's the way it works. Good. Meanwhile, this morning, as all of this was being announced, this guy appeared on Fox and Friends. Who is that guy? Well, remember how a little earlier I said personnel is more important than policy? Personnel is policy. Well, this is one of Meta, Facebook's newest hires. His name is Joel Kaplan. Joel Kaplan is a former senior advisor to George W. Bush. Joel Kaplan is a Republican. He replaces, as a senior executive at Meta Facebook, he replaces Nick Clegg. Who's Nick Clegg? Nick Clegg was the former deputy prime minister of Britain and a liberal. Clegg and the liberals are out. Kaplan and the Republicans are in. It's the new Facebook, everybody.
But there's also no question that there has been a change over the last 4 years. We saw a lot of societal and political pressure all in the direction of more content moderation, more censorship. And we've got a real opportunity now. We've got a new administration and a new president coming in who are big defenders of free expression. And that makes a difference. One of the things we've experienced is that when you have a U.S. president and administration that's pushing for censorship, it just makes it open season for other governments around the world that don't even have the protections of the First Amendment to really put pressure on U.S. companies. We're going to work with President Trump to push back on that kind of thing around the world.
So, Joel, why now? I know you said it's a change, but did you feel restricted over the last 4 years? And this is the first time it's in your business interest to express this quest for freedom?
Well, there's no question that there's an opportunity here with a new president taking office, as I said, who really believes in free expression. And that's just going to give us the space to get back to those values that Mark has talked about for a long. Mark gave a big speech 6 years ago at Georgetown about.
Yeah, I'm going to stop you there, Joel, because I don't know if you caught that, but that was Joel Kaplan answering a question without really answering the question. The question was there something stopping you in embracing free speech and allowing more voices without censorship on your platform over the last 4 years? And his answer was, well, let me just say, with this new president who really, really is a big supporter of free speech, this gives us an opportunity to this. In other words, yes, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and the Democrat regime that's been in charge of the executive branch of government for the last 4 years is anti-free speech. And he basically just said it. One other new hire, well, not really a hire, sort of a hire, new appointment at Meta, the parent company of Facebook. This will possibly make a difference too. Dana White, the CEO and chairman of UFC. He says, I love social media, excited to be a small part of the future of AI and emerging technologies. That's right. Dana White is now going to be in the boardroom, sitting right next to Mark Zuckerberg, giving his advice and his opinion on things like this. Big Trump supporter. Zuckerberg's statement, I'm excited to kick off the year with some news we've been working on for a while. Dana White, John Elkin, and Charlie Songhurst are joining Meta's board of directors. Massive opportunities ahead with AI, wearables, and the future of social media, and our board will help us achieve our vision. Dana is the president and CEO of UFC. He's built it into one of the most valuable, fastest growing, and most popular sports enterprises in the world. I've admired him as an entrepreneur and his ability to build such a beloved brand. There you go. One of the most outspoken supporters of Donald Trump and MAGA during this last election. He even spoke at the Republican National Convention. Dana White now on the board of Meta. Yeah, things are changing. By the way, I also think Mark Zuckerberg wants him there because he's a bit of a jiu-jitsu nerd. And I think by having Dana White in the board is going to make him feel cooler. Again, don't care. Listen, proof is in the pudding. We're going to be watching. We'll let you know if things start to change for us. But either way, the fact that Zuckerberg had to do that hostage video at all and concede that they have been silencing your voices is a huge step in the right direction. Now, Mark Zuckerberg, now Facebook, put up or seriously shut up. So we're talking about increased tariffs right now on our trade partners, tax cuts, regulation changes. I want you to learn why gold is a viable diversification tactic right now more than ever. Birch Gold, the only company I endorse, they're releasing, only gold company I endorse. Let me just be clear on that. They're releasing their ultimate guide for gold in the Trump era, and they've got a foreword written by the aforementioned Donald Trump Jr. To get your free copy, along with Birch Gold's free information kit on gold, just text my name, Larry, to 989898. The facts are the national debt continues to increase. Our interest payments on the national debt continue to increase. Gold is still your hedge against a weakened dollar, and Birch Gold is still the company I recommend to help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in gold. And that's not a penny out of your pocket to get that done. Text Larry to 989898. Get your free copy of the ultimate guide for gold in the Trump era. No obligation, only information. I love Birch Gold because they've got an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, thousands of happy customers. You can trust Birch Gold too. Text my name, Larry, 989898. Do it today.